So there's been a pretty significant ruling involving President Trump and the law firm Perkins Coie.
That's right. U.S. Judge Beryl Howell issued a permanent injunction, basically stopping an executive order Trump had put in place.
And this order was quite targeted, wasn't it? What exactly did it aim to do to Perkins Coie?
Yeah, very targeted. It tried to, well, cut off their access to government buildings, for one,
Okay.
and also revoke security clearances for people at the firm, and even terminate any federal contracts they might have had. Pretty sweeping stuff.
Wow. So Perkins Coie obviously challenged this. What was their main argument?
Their argument, and Judge Howell ultimately agreed, was that this was retaliation. Pure and simple.
Retaliation for what specifically?
Primarily for representing Hillary Clinton's campaign back in 2016,
Yeah.
but also for other stances and representations the firm took on, activities protected under the First Amendment.
Right. The freedom of speech and association angle.
Exactly. The judge found the order essentially singled out Perkins Coie precisely because of the content of their speech, their clients, their actions. That's a constitutional problem.
Okay, so how did the judge arrive at that conclusion? What evidence was key here? I assume it wasn't just Perkins Coie saying they retaliated against us.
No, definitely not. The judge started with the basics, the actual text of Trump's executive order.
Makes sense.
And there was also this accompanying fact sheet from the White House when the order came out. Those provided the initial groundwork.
But you said Judge Howell agreed it was retaliation. Did the text explicitly say that? Probably not.
No, not usually that simple. The text and fact sheet pointed towards singling them out, but what really seemed to clinch it, according to the ruling, were things that happened after the order.
Okay, like what?
Well, the judge looked closely at agreements the Trump administration apparently made with other law firms.
After targeting Perkins Coie?
Yes. And critically, she also considered President Trump's own public statements he made about these other deals.
So comparing how Perkins Coie was treated versus these other firms who made deals.
Precisely. That comparison became really central to showing the intent wasn't neutral government policy, but something else.
Can you unpack that a bit? How did looking at deals with other firms show retaliation against Perkins Coie specifically?
Well, the judge observed this kind of pattern. Perkins Coie is facing these pretty severe actions, losing access, clearances, contracts.
Right.
But these other law firms, which reportedly entered into some kind of agreements with the administration, seem to be treated differently, maybe shielded from similar negative actions.
So what kind of preferential treatment if you made a deal?
That's what the judge inferred from the evidence presented. It suggested the crackdown on Perkins Coie wasn't about, say, some general policy concern that would apply equally to all firms in their position.
It made the action against Perkins Coie look specifically punitive.
Exactly. Punitive, designed to punish them for things like representing the Clinton campaign, activities the First Amendment protects. The apparent protection given to firms making deals suggested the motive wasn't legitimate governance.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned Trump's public statements were also key evidence. How did they fit in?
Judge Howell pointed to specific instances, times when President Trump talked publicly about these agreements with law firms.
What did he say?
At one event, he apparently mentioned law firms signing up with Trump. He talked about the large amounts of money involved, and even said something like, they've given me a lot of money considering they've done nothing wrong.
Okay. How did the judge interpret a statement like that?
She saw it as potentially indicating a quid pro quo dynamic. Like these deals were about securing support or maybe ending investigations or something, and those who played ball were treated favorably. It undermined the idea that Perkins Coie action was based on merit.
Got it. Was there anything else related to these deals? I think I saw a mention of Stephen Miller.
Yes, that came up too. During the signing of an order related to another firm, Sussman Godfrey, Trump apparently asked Stephen Miller about the value of free legal work the administration secured through these kinds of deals.
And what was Miller's response?
Miller reportedly said the figure was getting close to $1 billion, and Trump then commented they were just getting started with Sussman Godfrey.
Wow. So the judge saw that exchange as more evidence?
Yeah, Judge Howell highlighted it as showing the administration was actively pursuing these agreements and, importantly, linking them somehow to the targeting of law firms like Perkins Coie and Sussman Godfrey.
So even without knowing every detail inside those private agreements, the fact that the administration was publicly talking about them, boasting almost.
Yes, that public promotion was key for Judge Howell. She concluded it established a direct link in the administration's own narrative between being targeted, like Perkins Coie was, and whether or not a firm entered into one of these agreements.
Which really undercut any claim that the order against Perkins Coie had a legitimate, non-retaliatory basis.
Exactly. It strongly suggested the order was intended as punishment for their representation and stances, things they have a right to do. The judge effectively used the administration's public posture against its legal position.
It's quite something when the public statements become such crucial evidence in court.
It really is. It shows how public actions and rhetoric can have very real legal consequences. Judge Howell leveraged those public statements to get at the underlying motivation, finding it unconstitutional, which led to this permanent block on the order.
A fascinating outcome, really digging into intent based on subsequent actions and words.
Definitely a significant First Amendment ruling.
That's all for today's Dissent Picks. If you believe in standing up for what's right, please check out our collections at dissentpicks.com, featuring thought-provoking t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and more that amplify your voice. Remember, when power corrupts, resistance becomes duty. Stay informed, stand strong, and we'll see you next time.